A new report on the benefits of heat pumps. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. Joining us from the Department of Energy's National Renewable Energy Laboratory, NREL, is Senior Research Engineer Eric Wilson. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Fred.
Well, there are some new findings on the costs and benefits of air source heat pumps in a new paper you are the lead author of. Give us a bit of an overview to start with here.
Yeah, so the goal of this paper was to really take an unprecedented look at the costs and benefits of residential air source heat pumps across the U.S. housing stock, and do that in a method that is more granular and covers the diversity of the housing stock than has been done previously.
And we've seen a lot of growth, obviously, I think in the heat pump category. How fast is this growing?
Yeah, it's been growing pretty steadily over the past decade, and I just saw that this year was the second year in a row where heat pumps outsold gas furnaces.
Interesting. Now, one of the obstacles seemingly has been cost. Is that picture changing?
Possibly, it's I sometimes think of heat pumps as the parable of the blind man and the elephant, because depending on who you are and what your home looks like, the benefits and costs of a heat pump could be completely different. So for a majority of U.S. households, the study found heat pumps today are cost effective, and if they're financed, for example, they would be positive cash flow and be saving households money from day one. If they're replacing a furnace and an air conditioner, or say a boiler and an air conditioner, the incremental cost of upgrading to a heat pump is going to be paid for out of energy bill savings for a majority of households. But a researcher's favorite two words are "it depends." So what this study finds is that there's a huge variety, and it can depend on a lot of different factors. Most importantly, the heating fuel that is being replaced, whether it's electric resistance heating or fuel oil or propane. Those tend to be more expensive ways of heating, and heat pumps tend to save a lot more in terms of utility bills against those types of heat. For natural gas, it's a little bit of a different story, but there are still a good number of households, millions of households, that would save money by replacing a natural gas furnace or boiler with a heat pump.
How big of a process is it? For instance, if you had a home 20 years old that has a gas furnace with forced hot air and central air conditioning outside, an old unit, is it a big deal to say, I want to switch over to a heat pump?
Yeah, that could really depend. It's always good to start thinking about that sooner rather than later, so it's not something that you're thinking about on an emergency basis, because that definitely, if you're cold without heat, you're going to want to get heat as soon as possible. So in some cases, you might need to have a new wiring put in for the circuit that the heat pump is going on. And in some cases, though this is probably a minority of households, you may need to upgrade the size of your main electric panel, if it's, say, less than 150 amps or so. It's possible, but there are a lot of households out there that could also upgrade to a heat pump, even if they have lower amperage service, say 100 amp service. So it really depends on a lot of factors, climate, what your existing systems look like. And for a lot of people that have air conditioning, one relatively simple switch would be just to replace your air conditioner with a same size heat pump that just has a reversing valve. And you can keep your existing furnace and use that when the load of the house exceeds what the heat pump can put out. So that's another option that was not specifically analyzed in this study, but could be a good option for lots of homes out there that currently have natural gas heating systems.
I guess there's been a perception that in colder climates, heat pumps can struggle to keep up. Is that accurate?
Well, That has been accurate in the past, but the way I think about it, it really comes down to sizing. You can put in a heat pump that's big enough to meet any load, um, even if the house is extremely leaky, and it will meet that load entirely on the coldest day. You might need two of them or three of them, depending on how poorly insulated and leaky the house is. But you can do that if you really want to. Now that's going to be pretty expensive though to put in that big of a heat pump or multiple big heat pumps to meet that load. So what we found is there's really a large benefit to performing insulation and air sealing, and especially duct sealing if there's any ducts that are located in an unconditioned space before considering a heat pump. And that can really reduce the size of the heat pump that you would be installing and make it that much more affordable to install that heat pump. And sometimes you can even avoid the need to install a large electric panel if you're doing that insulation and air sealing work first.
Interesting. Well, there seems to be some confusion, I think, about benefits and rebates. And this is, I guess, going state by state, very often the implementation, whether it's smart to buy now or to wait. What can you tell us about the incentives that are out there and might be coming, and whether it pays to wait?
Yeah, so there's two types of incentives that were made available through the Inflation Reduction Act, and I would say that a lot of states and utility companies have their own incentives that may also be available in certain areas. The incentive that's available to everybody right now is a tax credit, which I believe is $2,000 tax credit for a heat pump that meets a certain efficiency criteria. And so that's available now. Anybody can make use of it for a heat pump installed this year. And so that's something, there's really no cap on the number of people that can take advantage of that. The other type of rebate is, or of incentive, is a rebate being made available through state deployed programs for, with money from the Inflation Reduction Act. And those rebates are designed more so for households that are experiencing lower or moderate incomes. So for a lot of people, it may not make sense to wait for those rebates to become available and go ahead and take advantage of the tax credit that's available now. For households that do have lower or moderate incomes, then maybe it is worth waiting for those rebates to become available. But there is a limited amount of money that's available through those that's being provided to each state. So it's also not a guarantee that you would get it if you wait for those.
And it's my impression that very often states rely on utilities to implement some of these programs. But your gas utility may be reluctant, I think, to steer you towards a heat pump.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules around that vary state by state. And I believe it's the state energy offices in every state that are deploying these rebate programs. So that may not necessarily be something that goes through the utility. But like I said earlier, there may be other incentives that are provided by your electric utility that you could take advantage of to install heat pumps.
When it comes down to it, what should consumers be thinking about when they're considering switching over to a heat pump system? And the name, as you've already pointed out, can be a little misleading because you're doing more than heating your home with this.
Right, exactly. That's one important thing to know is that it provides both air conditioning and heating. So it's two appliances in one basically. And so people should know that there can actually be a lot of non-economic benefits. What the study focused on was the utility bill savings that you would get from switching to a heat pump, which can be substantial. But there are other benefits that we didn't quantify that include better indoor air quality. If you look for, especially if you're in a cold climate, you're going to want to look for a variable speed heat pump that's designed to work in cold climates. And a lot of the modern heat pumps are variable speed. So they run at a really low speed the whole time. And what that does is it provides a lot better filtering of your indoor air. So you have cleaner air it also provides more even temperature distributions between all the rooms in your house. So there can be these health and comfort benefits that you get from putting in these modern heat pumps as well. And then a lot of times homes may not have air conditioning, or they may have just window AC units. So putting in a heat pump can provide a lot more comfort in terms of cooling during the summer as well.
Terrific. And often existing ductwork in a home can be utilized here.
Yeah, definitely. If you have existing ductwork, that's something that can be used. With heat pumps in particular, it's especially important to make sure that those ducts, if they're located, say, in a unconditioned attic or in an unconditioned basement or crawl space, make sure that they're well sealed and insulated, because heat pumps, especially if they're the variable speed variety that run at that low speed, the whole season long, that can increase your duct losses. So making sure your duct system is well insulated and sealed is even more important for heat pumps than it is for a standard furnace or air conditioner.
Where are some of the best places to go for information, or for people who want to take a look at the paper that you've come out with?
Yeah, so the paper is in the journal Joule, and you can find that online. There's also an NREL news release that went out, which has some information. And there's a lot of organizations out there that provide information on heat pumps. You can look on energy.gov from the Department of Energy. The EPA, through their Energy Star website, also has information on heat pumps. So those are some good places to look.
And Joule is Joule for those
Yes.
who maybe looking at the bracelets instead. So,
Yep. And then I would also add that I've heard that websites like Angie's List or things like that can provide good suggestions of contractors. If you're interested in pursuing a heat pump, it's important to find a contractor who has experience installing heat pumps. Otherwise, they may try to talk you out of it because they've had a bad experience once. But I think we're seeing a growing number of contractors who specialize in heat pumps and have good experience installing them. So, but definitely look for reviews, and yeah, if you can get more than one quote.
terrific, great information, and of course, congratulations on the work that you and the team there at NREL are doing. Eric Wilson, thanks for spending time with us.
Yeah, thanks, Fred. Really appreciate you having me on the show.